Welcome back to Moving Abroad 222. I am your host, Illy Alay, and we are back with another episode. New energy, new journey. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are here every Thursday for our new episodes. And we have a special guest today. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Candice. I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio, 216 East Side, baby.
Okay, period.
And I'm honorary Floridian. But now I live between Istanbul, Turkey, and Malaga, Spain. I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a published author, and multi-passionate entrepreneur. And I'm happy to
Okay,
be.
period. I love it. It's the melanin for me. It's just, I love it. I love to see us just shining bright, living our best life. I
Yes,
love it.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're gonna jump right into your journey and how you got started. So, what was life like before you actually decided to transition and live abroad?
It's really interesting because a lot of people ask me that question, and I can't say that my life was bad in the States.
Mhm.
I was a salon owner, so I do have a formal college education, but I am also a beauty professional by trade, and I owned a salon, eyebrow threading salon in Orlando, Florida for many, many years. And life was good. I've always been an international traveler, however. Like, I started learning foreign languages by the time I was like, 7 years old. So I
Mhm.
studied French for a long time. I want to say from the time I wanna say, like, about 11 years old to the time I was 16, and then from there, I transitioned to Spanish. So, it was my love of learning languages that truly kinda
Mhm.
sparked my international journey and my desire to get to know different people all over the world. So, by the time I was 18, I had started traveling. I was traveling mostly to the Caribbean, to Puerto Rico, um like back and forth. I ended up marrying a Puerto Rican, and we actually lived on the island for a little while. And that was my very first time living outside of the States, but that was kind of like pre social media, really. Like, I think when we were getting ready to leave was when Facebook had just come out, or
Mhm.
was just like really gaining popularity. And then after we ended up getting divorced, travel became a way of healing for me. So
Okay.
I ended up traveling to Paris, France, which was my first transatlantic trip. And it was really that moment that was pivotal for me because what I remember distinctly kind of being arriving to our Airbnb in Paris, and I opened up the window to the Juliet balcony, and I kind of like stepped out there, and I looked down, and I saw like people were just like at cafes, and they were like drinking wine at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, oh my God, these are my spirit people. I was like, they are just enjoying life, like everybody's just so chill, and so I just started traveling a lot more, and it just like every time I would leave the States, I just realized I felt better, and I felt like I could be
Mhm.
more of my authentic self, and so that's really where it was. But I mean, like I said, before my life, I just had a regular American life, going to work, being a mom, cleaning my house, watching Netflix, wash, rinse, repeat. That was my life in the States.
Mm. So
Yeah.
when exactly okay, so you said that you had an experience when you were younger, and I love that because you stepped out
Yeah.
on faith super young and decided, "Hey, I'm about to go live in another country." Because a lot
Yeah.
of younger people, they feel like, America is the perfect place to be because of everything that we have access to, right? So that was very brave. So exactly at what time period did you decide you were gonna move abroad after on your own once you were already separated and you were like on your own and you're like, hey, I'm gonna leave again. And where did you go? And what time period was that?
So I want to say I decided that I was going to at least try to live outside the US at least 6 months out of the year. That was like
Okay.
2017, 2018. That was after my trip to Madrid, Spain.
Mm,
And so I went to Barcelona because I loved Barcelona. Barcelona was like a vibe for me. So went to Barcelona, stayed there for a few months,
mhm,
stayed there for a few months and was like, okay, I don't think Barcelona is it, but I still enjoy this feeling of living outside the States. So when I came back from Barcelona, I want to say like a few months after that,
mhm.
one of my friends, she was like, "Okay, girl, I wanna go to Italy." And I was like, "Italy? Like, Italy has never been on my bucket list ever." I was like, "I don't" I was like, "I guess so." So, I was like, "Fine, I'll go with you." So, I go, and I'm talking about I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with Rome. When I tell people that I'm like, that feeling that you feel when you falling in love with somebody? Like,
Oh,
that's how I felt about the city, and
I
so I
love it.
turned to her, like, I wanna say, like, 3 days into our trip, and I was like, "I'm moving here," and she's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "I'm dead serious." So I wanna say within like, we came back, I wanna say that was sometime in July. I wanna say within 6 weeks or so, I had an apartment, I had my codici
Oh,
fiscale, I had I knew how we was gonna stay there, I knew everything, girl, and I was just like, "We're moving." I told my family was mostly supportive, some people thought I was completely nuts, but mostly support the people who are most important to me were supportive of the decision. I had to kinda raise my daughter as an international child, so she's like, "Okay, do they have Wi-Fi?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I'm good." So, we moved to Rome, Italy, and that was it, and we lived, in Rome, Italy for 2 years. It was I know there's a lot of conversation when it comes to, like, Black people living in Rome and traveling Rome, but I
lots.
personally love Italy. I have never once, and I really do mean that, and I speak Italian, um never once had a bad situation in Rome or Italy personally, and neither has my daughter. And so for me, we that was like the best 2 years of our lives. Just being in Rome, it's a beautiful city. It's like it's like an open air museum. And I think I learned so much about myself. That was really one of the places where I felt like I could fall and rest into my feminine energy, and I
Mm,
felt really soft, and I think the beauty of being there was for the first time in my life, I could be woman first, and that felt so good to me, and
I
then,
love it.
from there, I got stuck in Istanbul, Turkey during the COVID lockdown. So, I went to Turkey for what was supposed to be, I wanna say, like, 10 days?
Mhm.
Yeah, 10-day trip, and I, 2 or 3 days into my trip, got a text message from the Turkish government saying all flights to and from Italy are canceled due to COVID because, right when COVID started, Italy was having the highest number of cases. And
Uh-huh.
so I was like, "Oh, wow." So it looks like, I'm gonna be stuck here for an undetermined amount of time, and, uh, Istanbul just became home for me. It's like this it's a beautiful city. It's crazy beautiful. I tell everybody that, but I ended up purchasing property there,
Mm.
and building a life in Istanbul. And so now I'm kind of between Istanbul and here, but it's been a journey, and that was like the pivotal moment for me. I know I was long-winded in that, but
Wow. No, 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 I love it. I love it. I love it. That's a beautiful testimony to be able to go into something, feeling so aligned with it and knowing that that was your place. Because I think a lot of people are seeking that. Like, a
yeah,
lot of people always ask me that question, like, how do you know when a place is your place? Like, how do you
yeah.
know? So if you could share what that feels like to someone, like if they're stepping into an environment and they're trying to figure out, hey, is this place for me? What does it feel like to be somewhere and to know, like, energetically, I align with this place? Like, it feels like home to me.
I think when you feel a certain line of amount of peace, I feel like when doors are opening for you very easily, like you're not getting
Mm,
a lot of resistance from the universe, I think those are green lights. And like for me, I look at every situation that I've been in abroad. Um I've gotten that strong feeling. Like I said, when I went to Italy, it was just a strong I'd never in my life felt a pull to be in a place the way that I felt
Mm,
like I needed to be in Rome, like every fiber of my body. And it was one of those decisions that I was like, you know what, if I don't go, I will be spending the rest of my life wondering what would have happened or how my life would have been
I
if I would
love
have
that.
just listened to that feeling and gone. And then even when I was getting ready to go to Istanbul, I remember telling my mom because she had come to get my daughter so she could
Mhm.
take her back to Florida for some grandma time while I did my solo trip to Turkey. And I was like, "Mom," I was like, "I don't know why I get this feeling that I'm not gonna be in Italy very much longer. I just don't know." And so when I was in Turkey, similar feeling, a lot of people were panicking about, the COVID lockdown and everything that was happening. And yes, I was concerned, but there was kind of like this peace where, people were asking, "Are you gonna come back to Italy? What are you going to do?" And I said, "You know what? I'm just going to be still because that's what the spirit is telling me. The spirit is telling me
Mm,
I need to be still right now and that all
mm,
is going to be well." And so I just held on to that feeling. And then I feel like everything just kind of opened up doors, from that point. And, I remember I was thinking when I was thinking about leaving Turkey or at least leaving Turkey part-time because I was trying to like have my global strategy. So my global strategy was like, Turkey was kind of playing around with their immigration laws. They were changing their immigration laws like it felt like every 10 weeks they were changing immigration laws. And I was like, I'm a tourist. I need stability. I can't deal with this.
same. Right.
I need the stability. So I was like, I'm still gonna have Turkey as my home hub, but I was like, let me explore some other options.
Mhm.
So I went to Sicily because I was like, Sicily is very affordable. The winters are not so bad, blah, blah, blah. So let me go to Sicily. So I went to Sicily to stay there. And I'm telling you, from the time I landed in the airport, girl, the universe was like, baby, this is a no. This is a The universe was like, "No." And in the airport, I tripped over my luggage, ripped my
Oh my
hamstring. I had to
goodness.
rush to the hospital from the airport to the hospital in Sicily. Thank God my Italian is good enough that I could, like, manage myself in the emergency room.
Mhm.
But because my hamstring was ripped, that kind of threw off all the other plans that I had in terms of, like, looking for a place to live and possibly purchasing property and
Mm.
all of these other things. And then I remember I was trying to tap into the expat and immigrant community there to see like if I could get some help. Like I was trying to find somebody that could assist me with my daughter because my daughter is disabled. So I was like, well, I can't walk. She still needs to go outside, get fresh air. She needs to be with somebody. I also needed crutches in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk. And girl, it was kind of like pulling teeth. Like I felt
A
like
lot.
Unity
Yeah.
there was just not it wasn't a vibe, like, I'm sorry, I mean, no offense to anybody in Sicily, but, like, I just didn't feel like the community was welcoming at all, and so for me, just being able to sit back, because sometimes the universe will play games with you and have you in positions where you gotta be still and sit so you can really think, and
Mhm.
so while I was
That's
on
for sure.
while I was bedridden and couldn't walk, I just started thinking and I realized I was like, "Okay, the universe is telling me that
That this isn't it.
this is a
Mm.
no." Unlike when I came to Malaga, everything was a yes. Everything was aligned. I was able to get an apartment because I remember when I was looking for an apartment, I told the lady that, that was helping me to find my apartment because I got a real estate agent. I told her, I was like, okay, this is what I need. I was like, I need at least a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom because I was like, I'm not sharing a bathroom with my daughter anymore. I was like, I need a terrace. I needed to be in a nice neighborhood. I needed to be
Mm.
this amount of money. I needed to be close to the beach because I want to walk to the beach. And she was looking at me like, do you need anything? I was like, "Listen, I need what I need. Okay? I need
Mm.
what I
I
need.
know that's right.
Well, it's gonna be really hard to find." I was like, "Listen, whatever is for me, It's for
It's
me.
for me. Mhm.
It's for me. And not only did we find 1 apartment that fit my criteria, we found like 4 apartments that fit my criteria, and all the landlords said yes. They were like, "Yes, we would love to rent to you." So I had my choice of apartments. So, it was really a yes for sure. And so, being here in Malaga has definitely been healing, and I think it's done a lot of work in my life that I needed to do. But for anybody that's wondering, like, how do I know? Like you asked, like, how do I know what my place is gonna be? Or you're gonna know that because of the peace and the alignment. And I'm sure you felt the same too, right?
Definitely. Definitely. Well, and Thailand has been a little bit more tough for me,
Challenging.
challenges, but it's just I just needed to be stretched. That's all. Just prepping me for my next country. Just prepping me,
What
right?
I'm just curious, what challenges do you feel like you're having in Thailand?
So I use astrocartography because I'm an astrologer, right? So
Okay,
I
yeah.
kind of already knew I knew based off my astrocartography that I'm walking into Saturn energy, and Saturn energy is very limiting. It limits you, it restricts
Okay.
you, it binds you, it makes you become super, super disciplined, and it holds you accountable in a very, very intense way.
Okay.
And it brings things to your view, right? That you weren't even aware of. And
Okay.
it's gonna challenge you to really lock in. And I'm on my MC angle. So that's all about career, public life, and business.
Okay.
So it's everything that I'm building. So I had to hit a lot of like walls, literally blood
Okay.
gushing, okay, out my head because it was really tough. Like the immigration here is very difficult because Thailand is very wishy washy.
Okay.
So, they change their mind often. So one minute they might say, hey, we're going to do it 60 days for this visa, then we're going to switch it back to this, and we're going to go back to this. But that's just something that they do. And like you said, you're a tourist. I am too. That was my
Okay.
biggest issue because I have 3 children and I'm real big on stability and structure, and
Right,
I
right,
have to be somewhere that's grounded. Like, yes,
right,
I have emergency savings and things set up that if anything happened, we can get up and go, but I
right.
would rather be in an energy of knowing this is it instead of always wondering when is it not gonna be.
Right, right,
You
right.
get what I'm saying?
Understand completely. I love that because I'm big into astrocartography too, and that's actually how I ended up choosing Malaga based on my astrocartography. Now, it's on my Neptune IC line because I wanted to
Oh,
find a home line, but I realized Neptune IC line is a little tricky.
it
It
is.
has definitely been, I wanna say, healing, but it's also I think the shadow side of the energy has definitely come up for me, but I'm really happy to have gone through that, through the energy that I'm feeling here because I needed it to process a lot of things because my mother passed away 4
Oh, I'm
years
sorry.
ago. Yeah, she passed away
Okay.
4 years in Istanbul, Turkey, actually, unexpectedly, and um, I think going through that process, I mean, obviously, when you lose somebody as important as a mother,
Yes.
that's not something you get over. It's something you learn to live with. But
Uh-huh.
I think being in a place where I could sit still and be in a place that held me energetically while I was, coming to that level of acceptance has been really healing for me. And so now, and I've been here longer than what I expected because I was trying to go back to Istanbul like all last year and it just wasn't working out. And so this year, after my Spanish digital nomad visa got denied,
Mhm.
um, I'm just going back to Istanbul because I have my home there. I feel like I need to be someplace that feels like home, like very familiar with people that I know that love and care about my daughter and I. And so I said, you know what? I'm tired of being held hostage by immigration. So I'm leaving. And we did file an appeal, but we'll see. But I use astrocartography too as a way to navigate
Yes.
intentionally on the planet. And you know what's so funny? Kinda circling back to the whole Italy thing,
Mhm.
sometimes I think that sometimes people who experience things negative there, and this is not to make light of like racism or people that are crappy, because you and I both know you can come across those people all over the world. You know, we got
All
good and
over.
bad people sprinkled all over. Once in a while, you're gonna run into some bad apples. But sometimes I wonder, the people who are saying they having bad experiences, I would love to do their astrocartography chart just to see what
Yeah.
running running through Italy for them, to see if maybe that's one of the reasons why they're attracting that type of energy to them when they
Those
go.
experiences. Absolutely. That's what it is. Because it's like every location manifests differently through
Yeah,
us depending on where we go. So that's why like I've dealt with extreme colorism and racism here in Thailand, but I know that a lot of that is that Saturn
different
MC
energy.
energy. So it's like, yes, I talk about it because it's awareness, but I also talk about astrocartography. But that's also why I teach that everybody will have different experiences. That's my
Yeah,
experience. But you can come to Thailand and have no type of racial profiling or anything. But then again, that's a real thing that happens in society here, even to the darker ties. So it
yeah,
still is an issue. And that's
yeah,
why I speak on it, but I don't make it personal because I understand based off astrocartography that we can't really control this. At the end of the day, it's all lessons. You know what I'm saying? The universe wants us to learn, so we get stretched different ways.
yeah,
Sometimes the most high know that you're gonna be woke up when something comes to your identity and is challenging you. You're gonna be like, what the fuck? Hold on, wait. It's gonna get you to really learn and grow in that area of life, whatever area of life that is, depending on the angle, your IC, your MC, your descendant,
yeah,
or your MC. So
yeah,
yeah, that's just how it is. So that's why I don't really I still think Thailand is absolutely one of the greatest countries, right? But
right.
at the same time, it's not somewhere where I want to be forever like I thought at first.
Got
So
you.
things change, things shift. And like you said, I want to kind of go out and experience different countries and then I can decide and come back to, okay, I like this. Okay, I like this. So that's why my visa is almost up in Thailand and I'm nervous and I'm excited, but we just got to keep it moving.
You know where you're gonna go next, or you keeping
Yeah,
it
I'm
under.
going to Colombia next.
Oh, Colombia, okay. Which city?
Yeah. I haven't decided. Imma do them all,
Okay,
and then I'll decide. Because that was something that I learned also. I don't think that you should pick even if you're using astrocartography, for anybody that's watching, don't just pick just because. You need to experience these cities and see how you
yeah,
really because, we change our minds based off what we like. One city, from hearing, you might be like, "Wow, I think that's more of my vibe," but you get there and you're like, I'm not feeling this."
yeah,
So, I rather live in all cities. Well, most of the ones that I admire or that stands out to me and then kind of decide, you know? You
yeah.
agree with that?
I do agree with that actually, because that's what I did, and I recommend people do a go see. One of the things that I'm seeing now, and I kinda understand why, I'm
Mhm.
seeing a lot more people leaving the States. And they're coming on go-sees, but their go-sees are like 7 days. Or, they're trying to make a major life decision on whether to move in 7 days, and it's honestly not enough. And I realize,
Yes.
like, the average American that's coming overseas, 1, they don't have a lot of time off of work if they have to work to travel and stay for, like, a month. I feel like 30 days, 30 to 90 days is an appropriate amount of time to make
Yeah.
a pretty good decision on whether you wanna actually live someplace out of the country and make that level of financial investment that it's gonna cost you to move. Um, but I see a lot of people either not doing a go-see, going off of what they heard somebody said on, YouTube, or, on social media, and they're just not taking the proper time to really see for themselves and experience for themselves. And I think too, like, a lot of people are not really understanding the amount of cultural flexibility that you need to be a global citizen, because, like, I
Absolutely.
don't know about you, but I moved abroad not because I was trying to escape something. Like,
Exactly.
I wasn't trying to escape any type of political regime or anything like that. That's a different,
Mhm.
like, the people that's moving over here now, they got a completely different energy
I
than the
agree.
was meeting prior that just love to be an international citizen or, like a global citizen. And they just like,
Mhm.
they love to learn different languages and intermingle. And so I think people that are moving abroad now, they really underestimate the amount of cultural flexibility you need. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, that's a bit put offish because I'm very culturally flexible. I'm very culturally flexible. When I touch down in an area, I understand how I'm gonna, kind of like get the feel of the culture, kind of tiptoe a little bit quietly until you kind of get your footing. I'm
Mm.
trying to learn a few words in the language, um, and understanding that it's not the US. And to be quite frank, I did not leave the US to come to somebody else's
Going
country
to right,
and recreate my exact
the
same life
US.
I
Mhm.
had. I don't want that. I left because I don't like many parts of American lifestyle. I wanted a different lifestyle. So what I'm seeing now is a lot of people moving abroad and they're trying to somehow recreate their exact same lifestyle that they had in the US. And I think that they're coming up against a lot of resistance, friction, conflict, and disappointments because of that.
Mhm. I agree, I agree. I think we should probably do a live stream about that. We're gonna probably have to put that together because that's a
Yeah.
whole 'nother subject that needs to
Run
be spoke
another
on
topic.
and touched on. I always teach and preach 24/7 that you don't wanna turn this journey into escapism because
Right.
when you walk into it with escapism, you keep that same frequency of survival mode.
You do.
Your whole footing and everything that you do is gonna be running.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And it
yeah.
shouldn't that's not really what it should be. Like for me, leaving America, I just had grown so much spiritually that my environment was no longer aligning with the capacity that I have. Like there's something in me that's so much bigger than where I was. So I
Right,
couldn't stay in a space that was going to limit me and my expansion financially, spiritually, physically, in all aspects of my life. So I outgrew that. But I wasn't like, hey, I'm trying to get out of here because of Brett. Like I don't do politics. That's not my
right.
thing. I don't pay attention to that. I'm more so of a spiritual person. I'm more spirit led. I don't really care too much about politics. So that's what it was for me. But I absolutely agree with you. We're gonna have to go deep with that. Because I feel like leaving with that energy is so low vibrational. Like you get nowhere. And I get a lot of people. That's also why I don't do those kind of consultations where I actually help people move.
Right.
I don't do that because people overwhelm me. I'm sensitive to energy. It's too much. I would
Yeah.
rather someone come and be like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this instead of, hey, I'm trying to escape. I'm going through a lot. Like,
Right.
yeah, I'm a psychologist. That's my line of work. But not that in that manner. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I can't do anything with that. I can help you rewire, like, more so of what I do for a living, right? But as far as escaping, I'm running, I'm scared. What are we to do right now?
Yeah.
That's not something that I can assist with because I don't live in fear. I don't give
Right.
any energy to
Yeah,
fear
yeah,
that
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
exist in my
yeah,
reality?
yeah.
Okay, so that goes into my next question for you. Before you left, what did it look like as far as like packing, to getting rid of things? Like a lot of people need insight on how to go about their belongings. Some people want to keep things in storage. It's a conversation about both keeping things and ridding of things. How do you feel about your belongings before you make that transition and traveling from country to country? Like it's a
This is
lot.
good. Okay, so this is a good question. So when I first left for Italy, I really didn't take much because one, I got a furnished apartment. And so that's what
Mhm.
I do recommend to most people is try to seek a furnished apartment. And I didn't take I like I said, I really didn't take much except for like sentimental items. And I did ship over one sofa, that one little mini love seat that I had that was near and dear to me and made me feel at home. Um, but at this stage of the game, like looking back, that was in 2018. We talking about like basically 8 years later. I'm gonna say don't bring any furniture with you and only bring what is truly sentimental to you. Because guess what, people? They have furniture stores in other parts of the world. Like,
Mhm.
you don't need to bring all that stuff. And so when I do see one of my friends, she just moved to Malaga, and we actually laugh together because she brought half of Atlanta with her, and
Oh my
we
God.
joke about it. We kind of like joking. She realizes now. She's like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "I just brought way too much stuff." So I find that a lot of people are bringing too much stuff with them.
Yeah.
Sell all that mess. Sell all the furniture, especially if you know you're not gonna come back or it's gonna be years and years and years, just let it go. Because the one
Yes.
thing that I learned that this lifestyle would teach you is the art of detachment and the art of surrender.
Yes.
It's what it's all about. I surrender. So for me in my life right now, I don't have like, our entire lives can fit in about 4 suitcases, 4 big suitcases. That's it. If I have collected anything beyond those 4 suitcases, they got to go. It got to go because until you are a passport holder, until you have citizenship in a country,
Mm.
your immigration status is unstable. It is uncertain because countries can change immigration laws like this, and then you don't know what's going to happen to you. And so I just don't feel comfortable buying all this furniture and collecting all this stuff. I've learned that this has also taught me to release myself from the demon known as capitalism.
I
Because
love
a
it.
lot of Americans in particular are addicted to shopping. And so what this has taught me in not buying a lot of stuff, not taking a lot of stuff, not packing a lot of stuff is just to be happy with the things that I have. To when I do make purchases, I make conscious purchases and I purchase quality things that will last me a long time. And I find joy in simple pleasures like having coffee with friends, having a dinner and meaningful conversation, I world school my daughter. So taking her to go see some of these wonders of the world that we've only seen in books. For me, that is the spice of life. And so I don't need all that stuff, and you don't need all that stuff. All the stuff you think you need, you don't need. So if
Mm.
you're thinking about leaving the US, just sell it. Just sell it all. Get a furnished apartment. If you feel like you want to, get a non-furnished apartment and personalize your space or whatever the case may be, okay, fine. But they have furniture stores abroad too. Nice ones with high quality. So that's my take on that.
I love that. I love that. That is so true. Get rid of everything. And that's literally what I did. Been a homeowner for 11 years, sold my house. That's a
Yeah.
big major thing, and my family ownership is power. So they still think I'm nuts to this day. Like, what? Why would you do such a thing? That was so extreme. But detachment, oh my God. You hit on something so powerful. Like, you really learn detachment in another way. And it feels so good when you
It does.
just sit with it and you're like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm not resisting. And like you said, surrendering. It's the best feeling because I feel like it opens your heart. It opens you
It
up
does.
to so much. And then you start realizing what life really consists of. And then those blessings really start flowing in.
Yeah. And it is scary. Like, I don't want to minimize that the part that feels scary to detach. It
Right.
feels scary to detach from your things that you're holding on to. It's just stuff. It's just stuff. And I think for me, what really made me detach more is when my mom passed away. And then after her funeral, I had to go back and get rid of a lot of stuff. My mom wasn't a very materialistic person, so she really didn't have a lot. But since she wasn't in my home anymore, I decided to, sell my home and get rid of a lot of stuff that was in my house. And I was like, we collect so much stuff in life, stuff that somebody else is going to have to sift through and get rid of when we're no longer on the planet. And so we
Mm,
spent all this
that's
time
deep.
collecting things rather than collecting experiences and collecting meaningful relationships. And so I think for me, like, going through that fear process of like, why am I holding on to this? Why does it mean so much for me to have this thing? And then releasing it and letting it go, like you said, it leaves so much more room for you to receive other things, even if it's not another thing, like maybe it's not a tangible physical object, but it
Mhm,
leaves that space for the universe to kind of like come in there and give you something else that is just as enriching, but maybe a little bit unexpected.
mhm. I love that, so true.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go into our next question. I want to go into citizenships and visas. Now, you
yeah.
mentioned, I love what you mentioned about having a citizenship that's next level. I know a lot of people right now, nowadays, are looking into dual citizenship.
Oh,
Myself,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
actually in the midst of working on that. So, do you have dual citizenship or citizenship in any of the countries that you live in?
Unfortunately, I do not have dual citizenship anywhere. I am currently looking at applying for the citizenship program in Benin, which has
Okay.
been offered. That was July of last year. They created a program for Afro descendants of the transatlantic slave trade to be able to apply for dual citizenship in Benin. So I am actively going through that process, just kind of like getting my documents together for my daughter and I to be able to apply for that citizenship. I think it's a great uh, um, citizenship offer, a gateway to Africa passport. I know a lot of people uh, especially, our people back home, they don't quite understand the concept of dual citizenship. So sometimes I see comments like, well, I'm not going there, or I don't want citizenship. I'm like, nobody said you had to give up your US citizenship. Nobody,
Exactly.
nobody even said that you have to go and live there all of a sudden. But to be a second passport holder or to have multiple passports opens up different types of opportunities for you, whether that
Exactly.
be travel related opportunities or real estate opportunities like purchasing property or land, or being able to start businesses with the least amount of friction and resistance because you are a citizen.
Mhm.
And so I think at this particular time that we find ourselves in, we need, especially our people,
Yes.
we need to have as many options as possible. Okay? We need to, because like I always say, I know some people might get, offended, but like I say, the United States for me is a plantation. And as long
Absolutely.
as you are still in the US, you are still living on the plantation. You just have a longer leash. And as long as you still have a United States passport, and that's the only passport you have, yes, you still tethered to the United States plantation system. You just have an even longer leash. So by expanding your options, by having different residencies, by having different passports, you thus kind of give yourself some more global freedom. And I do believe that the new freedom these days will be having multiple residencies and passports on the
Mhm.
planet. So, I did have property ownership residency in Turkey because of my real estate purchase there. And
Okay.
unfortunately, they made some that was one of the reasons why I kinda left, is because they changed some laws and we were supposed to be grandfathered in, but when I went to immigration, they did not give us the property ownership residency renewal. They gave us tourist visa. So I am looking at going back to Turkey and legally having that legally changed, because by law, at the time that I purchased my property, I was supposed to have and be able to maintain my property ownership residency. So, however, with all of that being said, because I own a property in Turkey, it is much easier for me to get residency, because when I go to
Mhm.
immigration, I show that I show my title deed to my home, and they look at that and say, oh, okay, approved, because she needs to be here. She needs to have access to her home.
Sure, right.
Um, But, there are so many different that's one of the things that I talk about on my platform a lot,
Mhm.
on Instagram and TikTok. is having this global flexibility through having the various citizenship programs that are out here, the different residency programs that are available on the planet. And yes, you should be looking at them. And yes, you should take advantage of them when and where you can. Absolutely. It's a game changer. What about you?
It is. It is. That was very informative. That was very informative
Right. Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of people do not know the value of dual citizenship. You know, when I speak about it, like you said, people think that you're giving up your citizenship. And that's, I mean, it's like, guys, do you know the definition of dual? You
Right.
get what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Exactly.
like it's not restricting you and binding you to one and taking away another. Like that's not what it is.
Right.
It's access at the end of the day. It's access. And I
Right.
feel like if we wanted to give our kids anything in this life, instead of leaving my kids behind property and everything else, they will have multiple passports. And that's the
Right.
greatest gift that I can ever give them. So I don't have citizenship anywhere else yet. I just have my visa, which I want to go into visas next. But what I find, and I'm sure that you do too, the visas are like all over, not just Thailand.
Right.
Visas is so tricky to me. Like I feel as though residency and citizenship is a little bit more like straightforward. I feel like the visas they change so often all over. And it's hard to really find a place that sticks to a system and sticks to a regimen. And hey, you gotta have this, you gotta have this. There's always something new every year. And I don't know. It's just like unsettling to me. So my thing is sticking to places where the visa isn't changing often. Like they don't have all these random restrictions or hey, we're gonna do this here and do this because it makes it unsettling to be in that place and to even be in that energy because I can't even get comfortable 'cause I don't know when y'all gonna hit the switch, you know?
Right, yeah, no, absolutely. I think finding countries, first thing you have to understand, like you have to, look at what passport you have. So if
Mhm,
you have a US passport, then you want to look at countries that, if you're thinking about going to a particular country, you need to look at that country and see how long they allow you to stay in their country legally just on your passport. Or if you're going to need a long-term stay visa, you look at maybe a country like Albania, for example. Albania allows American citizens to enter their country visa free, and you can
mhm,
stay 1 year, one full
mhm,
year
yeah.
without any additional paperwork to be able to stay that. They actually might be changing that soon because they are trying to apply to become a European Union member. So that might change. And if they do become European Union member, then that is going to change to 90 days because the current rule right now for the EU is that American citizens can enter and the maximum number of days you can stay within European Union borders is 90 days. After 90 days, you will need some sort of long-term stay visa to do that. But there are other countries like, let's say, the UK. The UK, Americans can enter the UK without a visa and you can stay for 6 months. So just understanding, like what options you have for visas and what your current passport can offer you is really important when it comes to like navigating and finding countries that are relatively stable and not always changing their immigration laws
Mhm.
is helpful, for you to be able to, navigate and create stability. I know for myself right now,
Mhm.
wow. I know for a fact I ain't trying to go back to the US.
I know that's
That's
right.
for a fact. Like,
Yeah.
after this long, I ain't trying to go back. But I'm also quite aware of what's happening and what I intuitively
Mhm.
feel will happen in the future. I do feel like it might get more restrictive on the planet for US. So right now, we know while we have a relatively strong passport, I mean, right now we're not even in the top 10 passports on the planet.
Right, right.
The US passport power is dropping, and who knows, maybe in the next
Tremendously.
5 to 10 years, it may drop even more. So I'm consciously aware of that. So I don't wanna be out here, like I said, tethered to the United States plantation system out here with only one passport navigating the world, and then my my opportunities on where I can go on the planet are shrinking as other countries might not be as friendly to the
Exactly.
as they are right now. Like, I don't it ain't even a flex anymore to be like, "Oh, I'm American." Like, they look
Exactly.
at you like
You the problem. Exactly. They think we the problem
right.
immediately.
Although I will say this, when I say that I'm Afro-American, a lot of times people like, "Oh, okay," because they know that we ain't the problem.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
They know that
Exactly.
we ain't the problem, really. So, but it's not a flex, it ain't a flex the way it used to be like, "Oh, I'm American." People just kinda be like, "Oh, okay. Don't wanna
Exactly.
go to the US."
That's exactly what they say every time I meet plenty people,
Every
and I don't even
time.
like telling them sometimes when they ask, I'm like, "Fuck, here we go
I
again."
know, I know. It ain't the flex that it used to be, baby. It's really not. Like, that's why I be like, "I'm Afro-American, honey." Yeah, they be like, "Oh, okay. Okay,
I
yeah."
gotta try using that. Imma try that. Imma try that. Imma see how it
Yeah,
goes.
they seem to kinda lighten up a little bit when you tell them that.
Yeah. Because like you said, they know that shit, we've been feeling the wrath for many, 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 many decades.
For centuries, they know.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay, so
oh, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say,
no, you
that
good.
the UN just, voted yesterday in favor of recognizing the transatlantic slave trade as how did they word it? As the gravest crime against humanity
Mhm.
ever. And so, of course, the United States voted against it. United States, Argentina, and Israel voted against
And
it.
Israel,
And there
yeah.
were like 52 countries remained neutral on it. And then you had, like, I think 2 countries that didn't vote at all, but the majority of countries on the planet did vote. And I was very proud as a person who loves Turkey, and I call Turkey home. I was proud that Turkey did vote in favor of that. Like, thank you, Turkey. I appreciate that.
That's
But
what's
I'm
up.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just reading. Actually was just reading up on it right
Okay.
before we jumped on here. I woke up from my nap and I was like, okay, I want to do some more research and just learning more because I made a video yesterday about where Americans are moving. And I got so many comments of people saying, yeah, some of the places that you named did not, they did not vote. So since they didn't vote, they're considered, you know how people get.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, I get what you're saying. I'm not necessarily telling people to go here. I'm telling you guys where Americans are by majority, right?
Right, right, right.
So that was like a spark of conversation. And then it made me want to just go a little deeper and read more into it. And I definitely was reading into it. And I think I feel a lot of different ways. I try to stay away
Yeah.
from politics because people like to debate and argue with it a lot.
Right.
But I feel as though a country not really, being a part. I personally don't feel like that's saying, "Hey, we want this or we don't want this." I feel like that's kind of being like, We're not in it." And I mean, it should be a time where you do pick a side, right? But at the
Yeah.
same time, that topic can just be debated. It's really it's a very touchy and sensitive subject, I would say. I try to, stay away from, but I feel a lot of different ways
I
about it.
think
You get what
where
I'm
we
saying?
I understand exactly what you're saying. I think that, I'm here in Spain. Spain was one of the countries that decided
It
to
was. It
speak
was.
to stay neutral. And I mean, we all know that Spain benefited greatly off of the transatlantic slave trade. They are in the position that they are in because of the free labor that they had in the Americas, and we all realize that. But this is what I have to say, particularly to our people. We have to learn how to kind of remove our emotions from things and be strategic. This is not the time to be playing games and being overly emotional and being illogical. You have to strategize based on what is best for you and what you can get out of the situation. Unfortunately, as a collective group of human beings on the planet, and I'm specifically talking about Afro Americans, Solon, Black Americans, however you choose to identify these days. As a collective group of human beings and a ethnic group, we do not have political sovereignty. We do not have our own sovereign nation state in which we can make political choices for ourselves. Again, we are tethered to the United States plantation system. This is just a fact and a reality. Now,
Mhm.
because of that, we have to learn how to strategize differently. And we have to, move on. If you're going to move outside of the United States, you you need to move based on what is gonna be best for you economically, where you can find peace and alignment and joy, and also where you can find community. That is gonna be very important. And so those should be the criteria in which you are leading. Not based off some emotions, based off of how somebody voted in the UN. Like, I mean, maybe you wanna
Exactly.
use that to gauge, "Okay, is this gonna be friendly for me?" But I honest for God feel like most places on the planet are more friendly towards Afro Americans than in the US, generally speaking across the board, because people are genuinely curious about our culture. Our culture is very influential. Like, I was just having this conversation with somebody one of my friends the other day. I said, "Do you
Mhm.
realize that Afro Americans, that we only make up like 0.001% of the entire world's population? And considering the fact that we are an ethnic group that is only about just over 500 years old, we have made a significant impact on the planet, not
Mhm.
only in terms of music, sports, and entertainment, but also in inventions like the light bulb, or like the filaments part of the light bulb, ironing boards,
Come on.
traffic lights, uh
Mhm.
modern technology like cell phones, even the super soakers that they use over there. I was looking at, is it there in Thailand where they have the festival where they're shooting like
Yep, it's coming up. Sign
coming up, right?
crime.
I was like, the super soakers that those people use was created by an Afro American man. It was
See what
created
I'm
by
saying?
Yeah. So I was like, we could name at least 10 inventions off the top of our heads that Afro Americans created. And so the fact that we are a very young ethnic group, when you consider the entire history of the world, and we've had this level of impact on the planet, is quite significant. And so I think that the world is ripe in terms of learning about us, and that's one reason why I consider myself like an ambassador when I go to different countries, whether I want to or not, because a lot of places people have never met somebody that's Afro American. And so leading from that space, because I don't want to get long-winded or get off on a tangent,
Mhm.
but leading from that space of understanding our global position and being able to maximize off of that. That's the only thing
Yes.
you need to be worried about right now. All the other
The
food
only
and
thing.
nonsense, get over that,
Yeah, I
because it's
agree.
real. Times are about to get real.
It
I'm sorry.
is.
Jeez.
No, it's
Go
okay. And we're seeing it, and we're seeing it in real time that it is. It's here, it's now. Okay, so you have, what type of visa do you have in Turkey, and what type of visa do you have in France? Like, what's your visas that you chose?
So in Turkey, it was the property ownership residency that I had, but they downgraded me to a tourist visa. But like I said, when I go back, I'm gonna go to
Oh,
court
you
to
did
see if
say
I
that.
can get it
Okay.
back. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get my property ownership residency back, because it should have never gotten taken away, to be quite honest with you. And the only reason why I did not legally pursue it then is because my mom had just passed away and I was dealing with so much. I did not have the
Energy.
emotional energy
Mhm.
to pursue that legally with everything that was going on in my life at that moment. But now I'm gonna go back to court to see if I can get that that back. Here in Spain, when I first came, we were here
Oh,
on a
thanks.
student visa. studying Spanish, and then we tried to segue into a digital nomad visa, but unfortunately that got denied. Now we are appealing the decision legally, so that's why I'm still here in the country. And excuse me, y'all, because I have allergies. Um, but we'll see. We'll see if the appeal goes through. If it does not go through, then I will probably just leave for 90 days, come back and reapply because the digital nomad visa is one of the few visas that Spain has that allows you to get permanent residency and is a segue into getting a Spanish passport. And also my Spanish is very good, so I can get on here in the country very well in Spanish.
Mm. So that's interesting, because a lot of people worry about this part of visas obtaining or having restrictions or things with government.
Yeah,
So, shout out to you for just pushing through. Like you're not using
yeah.
that as a moment to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back to the US because I'm getting this restriction. I'm
Baby,
getting
I'm
this
not going
pushback."
I don't care if
You
I have
got
to
a plan.
I don't care if I got a country help. I ain't going back to the US, period. I have first of all, you should always have a plan B because like I said,
Yep.
you should have a plan B and a plan C because as I said earlier, until you have a passport in your hand from another country and you have dual citizenship, your immigration status is always a question mark. Always. When you go up each year or every other year or however, whatever time it is to renew and
Mm.
reapply for a visa, you never know what the answer is going to be because that's contingent on so many things. It's not only contingent on if they've changed laws, it's also contingent on the immigration officer who gets your paperwork. You just never
That's so
know.
true.
So everybody who lives this lifestyle knows that when it's time to go up for your renewal, that you kind of like hold your breath and cross your fingers and say your prayers that you're going to get your visa renewed. But if not, you need to have a plan B. And so I do have a plan B. But luckily for me, like I said, I do own property in Turkey. And at least it's someplace I can go back, to my own house, my own bed, and at least be there for a while and I don't have to worry. Like, I'm very grateful that I made that decision.
Yes, that's such a blessing.
It is. It
That's
really is.
such a blessing. So purchasing property, what does that look like? Did you have an attorney or someone assisting you when you decided to do something like that? Because that's very, like that's serious. A lot of people are nervous to even buy property outside of the US because of the fact that they're like, I don't know these systems, I don't know the government, I don't know what they have in place. So like that experience, how was that experience for you?
Absolutely. So I love to talk about real estate because real estate investing is like I don't know, it's like, I want to call it like almost like my favorite hobby. I've been
Uh-huh.
real estate investing since I was in my early 20s. And
Okay.
so I realized very early on that purchasing real estate is a cornerstone of building wealth and stability in your
Mm.
life for your family. And so I think just through going through the various real estate deals that I had gone through in my life, when it came time for me to make my very first international real estate deal, I kind of knew the safeguards that I needed to take. One thing I tell people, you should never, ever, ever in life buy some property or some land sight unseen. Unless you have somebody on the ground that you truly trust with every
Mhm.
fiber of your body, and I mean somebody like you personally know that person and can trust them or something, I would never do that. I don't recommend you doing that at all. You definitely need some safeguards as a foreigner, so you need to go with an immigration not it's not immigration, I'm sorry, a real estate attorney, so that's what I did in my case. So
Okay.
I had an immigration I keep saying immigration attorney. I had a real estate attorney, sorry. I had a
You're
real
so
estate attorney. You need lots of attorneys over here. So I had a real estate attorney to represent me in my best interest. So I did find the property was by owner, but one of the things when you're buying foreign real estate, you have to make sure that the person who is selling or listing the property has the legal authority to do so.
To do
Because
so,
a
yep.
lot of times what will happen in these countries is because they are very family oriented. You might have like a nephew or something that is selling the property on behalf of some aunt or some relative that's off in some little village or something. And you need to make sure that that person has the legal authority to sell the property and that the title deed checks out and all those things. So you have to definitely do your due diligence. But as long as you have an attorney, never use that person's attorney. Always use your own attorney that is working on your behalf to do all the necessary due diligence for you. And then, of course, you want to make sure to do, inspections. Like in some countries, an inspection is not required as part of the process.
Mhm.
I don't care whether it's required or not. And sometimes, well, it's not required. Well, I don't care if it's not required. I want to get someone in here, a contractor that I'm paying to walk through this place and check the plumbing, check the electrical, check the structure and the foundation of the home to make sure that you're getting a good deal. So purchasing property internationally can be safe provided that you go through the proper safeguards to make sure that you don't get screwed over. One of the things that I do in Turkey is I will do a real estate scouting for people. And I had a woman come to me. It was one of these new build housing properties where this happens a lot in Muslim countries, especially where um, there will be a new build project, and instead of getting financing from a bank, you can pay the builders directly like a deposit, and you make payments directly to the builder over time until they finish a project. So she was going to do this, and I said, "Listen, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Let my guy, cuz I have, a team on the ground of reputable people. I was like, let my guy go and at least check out the property for you. So you can really get an opinion on, what this project is all about, XYZ, if it feels shady, all of these things." So he went over there to check out the property and he was like, this is,
Mm,
he's like, these people playing games, basically. And the person who was selling the property to her, like the real estate agent, was
mhm,
pissed off with us because we messed up the real estate deal for him. Because he was trying to screw her over and he didn't want her to find out the real deal. And we were like, listen, my guy said that they're not even done with this. He's like, it's shady. This is a no-go real estate deal. So, when it comes to those things, you have to be really, really careful. And like I said, do your due diligence. You have some countries like the UAE, particularly Dubai, um, where there are just a lot more foreigners. And so UAE has become extremely safe as it pertains to
yes, I heard that.
purchasing property as a foreigner. Obviously, you still need to do your due diligence, but the government has set up an escrow program, especially if you do one of like those new build projects where you're, paying over time directly to the builder, and the builder does not get the funds released until they show that they're ready for the next phase of the project and that they can have the state come out and do a check to make sure all the safety requirements have been met for the project, etc. So for me
Mhm,
that makes me very comfortable, excuse me, makes it very comfortable to buy property there. And in fact, that's one of the places where I'm looking at purchasing property next is in the UAE because of those safeguards. But like in Turkey, an escrow does not exist. And that was really kind of scary. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I pay my deposit directly to the owner. Like, that's really scary. But again, I had done my other due diligence. So at the end of the day, I felt comfortable
mhm.
um, going through with everything. And I did. And it was a relatively smooth process buying property abroad.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's something that I might look into the future. I said that I didn't want to do any ownership anymore with being a homeowner in the States, but I do know that abroad is very different. But we'll see where life takes us because it's a
Well, you
lot
know
of
what? This
options.
yeah, and there are a lot of options, but this is the way I look at it. Having real estate, it is a responsibility, but I was strategic about the real estate purchase. I purchased property specifically because at that particular time, the law in Turkey stated that a foreigner could buy property or land of any amount. And by purchasing, you could get residency. So that's why I purchased the property. It was a very strategic move. And even now, excuse me, even now, I'm able to rent that property out and it provides me income. So I have a property manager in Istanbul, and that money that I receive from renting my property out offsets the cost of my rent here in Spain. So and I
That's
am
good.
grateful for that because with the fall of the US dollar, and other things that are going on, I'm grateful. Istanbul is the most excuse me. Like I said, my allergies kind of messing with me. But
No, it's
Istanbul
okay.
is the most visited city on the planet. It
Mm.
is the world's most important airport hub. And I strategically purchased my property in one of the best neighborhoods in Istanbul during COVID lockdown at a fraction of the price because the real estate prices have plummeted during COVID. So I was like, oh, this is the time to buy. So it's all about if you're going to do it, make sure that it's part of your global strategy.
Mhm. I like
Not
that.
only that, it's something that I can, pass on to my daughter, and that can be, a safe haven for her. It can be a way for her to have income, or the property can be sold and be put into the trust so that she can have money. So it's all about, having that, level of it's all a part of my global strategy and my strategy for generational excellence.
I
So yeah.
love that. That's beautiful. I love it. Say you had a plan. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I feel like the black woman, the melanated woman, we are just so powerful. You see how we think? You see how we think? Like, I'm setting
Absolutely.
my child up. That's like so much opportunity that your daughter has and that you have, even
Absolutely.
still, with making such an impactful decision, right? An investment. Okay, so let's go into mental health. What does
Okay.
mental health look like for a melanated woman abroad?
Wow. That is so good because I've actually been pondering that lately. I think obviously I'm Afro American, so that's really the only perspective I can speak on, right? I think particularly from coming from the States, leaving the US truly has been one of the only ways um that I could truly heal the trauma that comes from being Afro American and being tethered to the United States plantation system and all that that means. Because as Afro Americans, we all carry a sense of this generational trauma, epigenetic trauma, right? And so if you study epigenetics, for anybody that's listening and you study epigenetics and neuroscience and all of those things, you deeply understand that in order to heal yourself on a cellular level, you
Mhm.
have to put yourself in a new environment. By putting yourself in a new environment, it heals the cells, the genes. The genes change, the DNA changes. And so being able to leave the US has allowed me to heal on a cellular level and to embrace my humanity and to see myself outside of the context of struggle and pain and all of those things. And while I am still aware of those things, now when I look back at those of us in our culture that have not had the opportunity to leave the US and the only reality they know is the US, I can see it even more clearly now. Cause the only reality that they know is that. So they project that out and think that the rest of the world is like that and it's not. And so being able to go places where I feel deeply appreciated, where I feel welcome at the table, where I don't always have to like fight and struggle and validate my presence someplace has been refreshing. Um and I think too, just being able to be in living cultures that are truly family first, where um I can feel really relaxed and really dive deeper into my motherhood journey
Mm,
and being a mom and nurturing my daughter and being being able to create a softness for her. Like I had one of my friends, and I had a few friends say this that they've, abroad that they've got to meet my daughter. And they're like, your daughter just has lived a soft life. I was like, she really has. And I love that for her. I love that for her. Cause like I tell people, I'm from the hood. I'm from the hood, you know? And so I'm glad that I was able to provide that for her. And so living in cultures where it's very family first gives you this safety net to fall on. And as much as people in the US, as much as the US try to lie to people and be like, we're a family first nation. No, no, y'all not. Y'all slavey. Period. Slavey. So I just really enjoy that. So having those things also adds to your mental wellness, feeling safe when you go out in an environment. Like I oftentimes think about that. Like if I go out at night with my daughter or I go out, maybe late for late dinner, I'm like, I feel extremely safe. I don't feel like something is about to, jump off, or I don't feel like, you
mhm.
know, like I have to be hyper aware of my surroundings all the time. I mean, obviously you want a certain amount of, street smarts,
Right, right.
you but I'm not hyper focused. If I go to a public event or I go to something large crowd, safety or trying to find an exit because some uh homegrown terrorist that's gonna do some kind of public unaliving is not, on my mind. So that also provides a certain level of mental wellness. And so I feel like mentally it's helped me to heal. It also has, like I said, helped me to living abroad has just helped me to see myself in a different light, be open
Mm.
to different people's perspectives and stories, and kind of write a new mental narrative for myself and also the confidence level because you do gain a lot of confidence. This journey helps you to gain a lot of confidence in yourself. And so I think those are all the things that I've gained mentally from this journey. What about
I
you?
love that.
What about
I
you?
love that. That's really good. For me, I feel like the softness is really there in the peace. Although I've had my experiences in Thailand, I get a lot of peace here. For one, I'm living in a Venus house and I'm also on my Jupiter IC line. So IC is all about the inner world and Jupiter is about blessings, expansion, growth. So like I was blessed. I went through some things as far as like I think finding a house was difficult, and then I ended up getting a house that I love so much
Oh,
to the
wow.
point where I don't even wanna leave. If I
Oh
could,
my
like, stay in bed
god.
all day in my house, my room is perfect, like, my room is huge. This is where I record because my children play throughout the house,
Okay.
and then I ended up being blessed, and I just sat back and I was like, "This piece is so different."
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's quiet. I can think. And I think it's also a good thing being away from a lot of outside distractions as far as, yeah, we love our family, right? We
Right,
love our friends and everyone back home. But I realized how effective all of that was to me and
right,
how it did not help me grow. Actually, I
right.
feel like it hindered me a lot because every time I would want to go out and do these great things, people be like, girl, if you don't sit your ass down, because I always been an explorer. I always been the one that's like, the black sheep in the family. So
Yeah,
I'm
me
very
too.
open-minded. I'm very just different. And they like, you always up to something. If you don't have a
Yeah.
damn seat,
That's
like,
me too.
and it's like I always just saw more of life and what it could be,
Yeah,
right? And I always wanted to go after that. So I feel like here, my mental health is absolutely amazing. Before I decided to go into the line of work that I do for mental health, I decided that because of the fact that I used to struggle with mental health a lot, even when I was younger. And they used to say, "Oh, she needs to take medication. Oh, she needs to do this. She needs to do that." And I did not realize how we sleep on mental health, especially in the melanated community, in the black community. I used to be told stuff like, "You're doing that white shit," and it's like, huh? What does that mean? If
right,
I'm lashing out as a teenager in high school, I'm having a breakdown. I'm saying I don't want to live. I'm acting a
right.
certain way. Someone should have took me under their wing and
Yeah,
got me the proper assistance that I needed, which my parents did. They put me in therapy, they did all those things. But it ultimately led me to realize that it was not me. It was my environment, my circumstances, and my bloodline. A lot of the trauma that was passed down to me from my
yeah.
parents and my ancestry, right?
Right, right, right.
So Thailand is a very healing place, and that's why I had to come here first because
Okay.
I had to purge and cleanse and reconstruct a lot of things and
Yeah,
rewire. So now the new neural pathways that I have are a lot more stronger. They
yeah,
override that the lower vibrational side of me that likes to come up sometime like vomit. And
right.
I'm just like, put your ass back down. We good over here. But
Yeah,
the
and
past gonna always come back and kind of revisit to challenge us to see. And I feel like by me having 3 children, it used to be so hard for me. Like it
right.
used to be a lot. It used to be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But like even abroad, you get more assistance as mothers, so that helps with
Yeah,
mental health. Like I have a nanny. I actually have a nanny that comes and help homeschool my children. Of course, I do things with them because they're world schooling, but she actually comes where they get that individual assistance
right,
weekly, and I can afford it. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Because we could not in
girl,
the
listen.
states having a
That's what I'm saying.
nanny.
Things you can't no, it's like that's one of the things that I love and adds to like the softness of my mothering experience. It's like I can better afford, especially in Turkey, I could better afford, things like having somebody to come and help me clean my house every other week.
Mhm.
That's a tremendous help. Um, being able, like you said, having a caregiver to come and, be with my daughter and to take her places where I just wanna have some time to
Sometimes.
myself, and that has been, really nice, being able to afford to pay for my daughter to have private art lessons because she is an artist and she loves to draw, and, you know, in Istanbul, we live in a very artsy neighborhood, so her art teacher is our neighbor and lives a few doors down, and so she would go to her studio once a week to take art lessons, and so that has been, like, pivotal, and that's one thing I was gonna ask you too is, and I'm sure we're probably gonna get into that subject, but the world school experience, like, how has it been for your kids? I'm just so curious.
Well, for my kids, it's been really, really good because I'm not a very so I grew up in a very strict household. My mother was very, very strict. So much to the point that when I finally got outside, I was outside
So you was
because
outside.
my mama, she ain't play that. No spending the night in nobody's house. We don't know none of
Yep.
these people.
That was my
You're
mother too.
not going out nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you from Detroit, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think we have similar like a lot of similarities being from the Midwest and being neighbors like that. But my mom was the same way. My mama didn't play. Candace
Mhm.
was not going to no parties. Candace, if it wasn't about that church house, girl,
Okay. Okay. There we go.
house, I was not gonna be there. period. If it wasn't about the church youth group, Candace was not gonna be
There we
there
go. Yep.
at all. So that's one of the reasons like people be laughing at me. They be like, "How do you speak like 8 languages?" I was like, "Because my mother didn't let me do nothing except for go to the library." Really? So, I was like, I was into languages, so I was like, "Well, I can't go nowhere. Well, let me just sit up here and go to the
Let me
library
learn.
for the language or whatever the case may be." But my mom was the same way, child.
Yeah, so it's like once you get older, it kind of made me a little like wild and very experimental because I've always been sheltered, but it poured into my parenting.
Yeah.
So I am a very free spirited mother. Like
Okay.
I let my children be who they are wholeheartedly. And
Yeah.
sometimes that backfires on me. I have a thing in my household where you can freely speak how you feel.
Okay.
Girl, I done messed up on that because my 10-year-old would tell me, "But why are you speaking to me that way? Like, can you be kinder? You're being very mean right now. Like, you're 10. I'm gonna need you to bring it down a notch. I know
Right.
that we got this open door policy where you can, be free, but my kids be checking me sometimes. And I'm just like, okay, but I want them to be comfortable to do that
Yeah.
because I didn't really feel comfortable like saying nothing to my mama. It was like what she says goes.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
very free and they're learning too. Like, they don't have a strict regimen, they don't have, like, bedtimes, they don't have none of that type of stuff. They have free will to do what they want, and I
Oh,
feel like with the world schooling, they naturally gravitate towards, like how you were saying as far as what your daughter are all of my children are artists. They
yeah.
all draw and can draw really well, and they're all
Oh, good.
crafty. Like, my younger 2, my 8 and my 10-year-old, they created a whole paper world community with malls, police stations,
Oh,
hospitals, people,
wow.
names, just everything. They're really creative. So that's why I like to do the intentional learning with my nanny. And we only do 2 hours a day, 3 days out the week.
Yay.
Outside of that, living and going out into the world is homeschooling. We don't need books. We
Yeah.
don't need all of
Sweet.
that. Every time we go somewhere, they're learning. And then I do field trips. And the field trips are not necessarily, oh, you have to learn this. It's fun, but it's also something that they can learn at the same time. So I make world school really, really fun to the point that it don't even seem like school. And I realize they're more receptive to take in things when I do it like that. Especially like with my oldest, he's 14. So he's in his cooking. He wants to cook a lot and he
Okay.
wants to make music and everything. So that's all a part of his homeschooling.
Okay.
Cooking, making music, being crafty. I have a few books that I wrote, so of course I want him to read a lot. So he's reading my Astrology 101 for Beginners book right now. So I make sure he reads, he does his mathematics. I got
Okay.
him learning about financing and investing because I became an investor since I moved to Thailand. So I'm teaching him about investing, brokerage accounts, all that stuff. So to me, that's world school. So we're doing it very, very different, but I love it. It's fun, and it has to be fun. Don't nobody want to learn shit if you're gonna be like, "Oh, do this, sit down, don't speak." You gotta
Yeah.
ask the P, like, no. And I'd rather teach my own kids. I don't want anybody else
Yeah.
teaching my kids. So,
I l
yeah.
we world school somewhat similarly, um, because like I said, my daughter is disabled. She has autism and she has cerebral
Mhm.
palsy, and she was in traditional school for a while. I wanna say up until, the 4th grade or 5th grade, and then after that, I just got so tired of IEP meetings, and I got so tired of the school not really being, adapt for someone with disabilities that I was like, "You know what, let me just pull her out because
Mhm.
orange is not my best color." And I know that, you know what I'm saying, if
Mhm.
I was like, "If I go to one more IEP meeting and I have to hear these people, I might just snap." So I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna pull her out. I think this is gonna be the best thing." And it has been the best thing. I think the way we world school though, so initially she was in a Afro-centered homeschool cooperative. So what we did is
Oh, okay.
a group of parents, we got together and we paid a retired HBCU professor to teach our kids. And that was an amazing experience because it was homeschool, but it was a little bit more structured. Um it was a little bit more structured, but it was still fun for the kids because, like, they did math class at the park, or they would give math class through cooking and, all of these different things, and that for, like, their PE, they would take capoeira classes and, and things
Mm.
like that, so that was really cool. I think now when we started adding the travel component and she moved away from that we did a lot more online things, and then also I do the unlearning component similar to you. So like what I'll do is I'll ask her, like, what is it that you want to learn? What has sparked your curiosity
Mm. Love it,
through
love
this
it.
week that you want to learn about? Like what questions do you have about the environment that we're in? And I'm still really big though on teaching her culture, especially about our culture. So I do have her to read what I call the Afro American classics. So I have her, reading some of the books by, and of course the names is, slide out of my head, but like some of the things like Our Kind of People, autobiographies from, like autobiography of Malcolm X, the biography of Dr. Martin Luther King, reading about some of um uh, reading some of the earlier literature from our culture in the 1700s written by people in our culture and things like that, because I want her to be very aware of that. And then I also have her reading some of the other European classics as well, and classical literature from other places in the world, because one thing like that I want her to understand is that all every culture has its intellects, including ours, and so when people hear the classics, they usually just think about the European classics. I was like, that's the classics for Europe. I was like, but we have classic literature too as Afro Americans. We have people
We
that were
do.
literature in the 1700s. And so we have some of those books as well. We've been going over that. Poetry by Maya Angelou, reading over things from the Renaissance, the Harlem Renaissance and things like that. That's really important for me to incorporate those things. And then we do like the math, the financial literacy. So my daughter's on the same page. Like she's taking a financial literacy course right now that's online, and she gets Harvard College credits for that class, and then which is like a 2-year program that she's enrolled in, and that's been really good for her to learn about
Mm.
money and investing and all of these things. And of course, like she's learning different languages, because I knew very early on from the time I was pregnant with my daughter that I wanted to raise a multilingual child. So,
Yes.
she's been exposed to Spanish from birth. Um she speaks Japanese at a conversational level, and she's now taking Japanese lessons. Trying to get her she was I want to say somewhat okay with Italian, but we kinda dropped Italian so that she could learn Turkish and, maintain her Japanese, because I felt like Italian, like, maintaining Italian since we don't really live in Italy anymore was just too hard for her. But
Uh-huh.
it has been a really fun journey to see her learn, and the one thing, like you, what I learned is that the kids don't need to be sitting up somewhere 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours in a day to learn. Learning means, do you understand the information? And to me, it's not only about memorizing information, it's also about the critical thinking part. Were you able to take that information, and were you able to ponder about the information and maybe create some new thoughts, or what feelings were evoked from the lesson that you learned? And so I find it's much more fun to learn by her exploring the world, by her meeting different people, by us going to different museums, by us exploring the headlines, like what's going on in the world? How do you feel about this? Let's dive deeper. Like, right now with the Iran war, she has a lot of questions. Let's dive into the history of why there is conflict going on over there. And how do you feel about that now that you have this information? Because I want her to be this global citizen in which she understands her position as a human being, also under having awareness of who she is culturally and her connection to other human beings on the planet in relationship to that. So I love world schooling, and I'm so happy
I
that
do
our
too.
our kids get a chance to experience that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely beautiful because we I love that you said that you got her reading some of those books. Reading is, man, and that's why I'm like I wanted that to be a big part for my younger two too, but mainly my 14-year-old because he'll be 18 soon.
Okay.
So reading and learning, taking in that information, that's so important. And yeah, I realized that homeschooling, well, world school, homeschool, it's one and the same to me. I use both terms.
Yeah.
It also encourages them to seek out more that they want to learn because now my son, he hear me talking about ancestry and everything. He's like, so mom, what are we? Like, where are we from? Like, where is our ancestors from? You know? So
Right.
it goes deep into that. Okay. So we've been chatting for a while, so we
Yeah.
working our way towards closing, okay?
Yeah.
The next thing that I wanted to ask you is I wanted to talk community. I wanted to go into community, like finding community, finding friends for you and your daughter,
Yeah.
connecting, building, finding like-minded people that you trust. What does that look like for you and what has your experience been with building community because like me, I just want to add this really quick. For me, I'm an introvert. I have a big social media presence, but people don't know, like, I'm social, but I'm not necessarily like friendly like that, you know?
Right.
But I know how to turn it on and turn it off when I need to because I've always been into like public speaking and doing this my whole life. So I know how to show up when I need to. But when it comes to actually getting in front of people, I kind of get frozen. Like I get kind of nervous sometimes because I'm sensitive to energy and I'm pretty gifted. So I can always feel things and unspoken words. And it's just a lot.
Right.
So, like, community for me at first, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna kind of stay away. But what I learned is that you need community because when you start hitting those barriers, you need people around you that are like minded that can understand where you are. So now I feel totally different than I felt at first. And I'm starting to realize that making these friendships abroad is so powerful and is needed. So, what has your experience been?
And my experience has been relatively good. I actually wrote a book called The Black Girl's Guide to Living, Loving, and Traveling Abroad. And in that book, I discuss community and what I call like the three layers of community that you need, or
Mm,
that would be ideal for you to really thrive abroad. One, you need community with obviously other foreigners, expats, and immigrants. So that's one, because that's one of the easiest community hubs that you can plug yourself into when you move abroad. Then you do need community, I feel like, with people from your ethnic group. So I do enjoy meeting other, you know, Afro descendant people from not only the diaspora, but also specifically from my culture being Afro American. So I feel like you need that cultural grounding too. That's really nice if you can get that. And then the third layer is just people in general that are your are the locals, you know. So it like your I want to say like your fellow countrymen slash ethnic group, and then also from the locals. You need all community with all three if you can get that, because that kind of gives you a lot of balance in your life where you can learn the local culture and customs and build those ties to the community. But then also you have like a cultural grounding, you know, if something comes up and maybe, you know, something going on with the US embassy or wherever, you know, you might be from, you can have somebody that's from your country to kind of lean into for that level of support. And then, you know, meeting people from different countries is very rewarding. But how it's been for me personally, it's been really good. And community, it isn't something that I've shied away from building. It's something that I understand is absolutely necessary, because when you are living away from your family, when you are living as a foreigner in a country, that can be a very vulnerable position to be in. It can be extremely vulnerable. And as I always say, real life happens abroad. You know, a lot of times
mm,
people romanticize this life and, you know, they're just showing like the highlight reels of them at these fabulous places and restaurants and cafes all day. And I will say, yes, that is a part of the lifestyle of living abroad, but real life does happen. And, like I mentioned earlier, is my mom passed away in Istanbul. And that situation was a situation in which I was genuinely grateful that I had taken the time to cultivate the community that I did because my mom got sick. We all got sick with COVID, but my mom ended up getting worse. And when she was admitted into the hospital, that was very scary because we're talking about a serious medical situation in a foreign language. I mean, the hospital that she was at, some of the doctors spoke English, um, some of them didn't. The nurse staff definitely didn't speak English. It was very scary. And I remember my Turkish friends, I'm sitting there crying and just really distraught. And my Turkish friends, they came to me, they said, Candice, don't worry. We're going to treat this like this is our mother in the hospital. And they went, I mean, if I needed them at midnight, they would come up to the hospital at midnight, talk to the doctor, see what was going on, make the calls, do the translations for me. At one point in time, we wanted to get a second opinion from another doctor, and they came, picked me up, took me to that hospital. We asked the questions for me in Turkish. So, you know, they were amazing. And then,
Wow.
even after my mom had passed away, my neighbors, they knew my mother because my mom was a very talkative person, and she just loved people and talking to people. So she would always go in the neighborhood with her phone with Google Translate, and she learned herself, like, I think, like 5 Turkish words, but she would go and talk to the neighbors on our street. So when I told, when I broke the very hard news that my mom had passed away, when I tell you them people cried like they had knew my mother their entire life, I was
Mhm.
even shocked. I was shocked at the level of emotion because I just wasn't expecting it. I mean, these people cried. They was just like, "I can't believe it, kid." They're like, "Your mom was such a bright light. We didn't know her long, but she was so kind. She was so nice." Because my mother, like, during the lockdown, my mom would make extra food, and she would, like, give it to our neighbors. She was like, "Oh, here, I have extra food. Here, take this." And that was just how my mother was. So they were just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it." And they were like, "But don't worry, you're not alone." They were like, "Please come over our house you know, for dinner, come over for tea." And so they embraced me into their lives in a
Oh,
different
wow.
way. And after that, I started getting invited to, like, weddings and baby showers and activities, and really a lot of love and support that I am forever grateful. That's why I'm so excited to be going back home to Turkey. We're going to be leaving in a couple weeks because I feel like I have family there. Like, my one of my, neighbor's daughters, she and I are friends now. She had her baby right before I left. So I'm excited to go see my Turkish nephew,
I
and
love it.
and we making all these plans to go to the park and all of these things. So, community is something that it takes time to develop because you do have to trust, like you brought up that trust. You do have to trust people, and that takes time. And I think one of the things that a lot of Americans might find difficult is shedding the individualism because we have become very individualistic even in our Afro-American community. We have become
Mhm.
extremely individualistic where it's all about me and my and what I feel, and I don't feel like doing that. And so what I say to people is this: if you want the village, you have to be a villager. You have to be willing to be a villager. You don't get
Absolutely.
to have the village and be lazy and not show up for people. And you do have to show up for people in a different way living abroad than you would if you were probably back home in the States. Because I feel like we keep relationships really casual, or because you have your family, you can lean on your family for, like, serious things, and then you have your casual friends. Whereas living abroad, your friends are like your family. You're going to need to depend on them like that. So if something happens, you if something happens, then you need to know that somebody's going to show up for you if something really serious happens. And again, that just takes time. It takes a lot of unlearning. Like I said, especially the individualism. I can definitely tell the difference between my community in Turkey and my community here in Spain, because Spain is a little bit more Western, so I can feel the individualism a lot more. Whereas in Turkey, because of Turkish culture is very communal. And Turkish people definitely have the expectation that if you are a part of the community, if you are a part of the family, you are expected to show up. And if you do not show up, you gonna hear about it. So even as foreigners, we show up for each other in a similar way. So, anyways, I know we probably got to wrap up soon, but it's important for you to build that community. It's important for you to shed the individualism when you're doing that so that you can have authentic community. And I think the last point that I'll add on to community is that authentic community, to really have authentic community, you have to not only have common ground, a reason why you are communing together, but you have to feel like you have a genuine need for one another. If you don't really feel like you need somebody, you're gonna be like, whatever. I don't care if they're here or not. But having that need for each other is gonna be the glue that keeps you together.
Very, very true. Okay, hold on one second. I'm just plugging in my phone because
No
my
worries.
phone's it was
Oh,
on like 20%. So I had to mute and yell, tell my son, come grab my charger. So he just came and got it. Okay, so we're good now. I just want to say, get my charger. Okay, I definitely agree with that. And I love that how you said like community. You were like, yeah, your friends is your family. And that is like, I feel
yeah.
like you starting to respect and really appreciate your experiences so much more. We come from a country where everything is just like I. Everything is just so,
Yeah.
oh, what I do, what I have, what I
Yeah.
have become, what I have built.
Yeah.
And abroad,
I feel. It's not always about what you
yeah.
are feeling
Yeah,
or
and
what you
abroad,
feel
you
like
see how
doing.
everybody else is more so like it's a lot of togetherness, especially here, like where I live. It's a lot of unity. It's very rare that you will see like moms out with their children by themselves. They're always with their husbands. It's
Yep.
just like a family thing where they're in a
Yeah.
group. And that's been something that has really inspired me to like appreciate my family more because I've always been a black sheep and I haven't been as close as I wanted to be with my family,
Mhm.
but since living abroad, I think I value family more now because
Got
I like see
it.
it differently and
Mhm.
I see what community really is. We're
Yeah.
not we don't see that
We
often in the
don't see that.
US.
We don't see that. I think, like, for us, particularly in our culture, I think we lost that. I wanna say by the end of the '80s and the '90s, we lost that because when when our people are from the South where you have that level of community, and I don't know, maybe it's still like that for everybody that's still down south in the States, but I know when, everybody kind of migrated up north in Cleveland, like, I remember having that sense of community where you knew your neighbors. If there was an emergency, you knew you could count on Mr. So and so or Mrs. So and so. We knew our neighbors, and it was like that. But somewhere along the line, that was lost, and we traded that for capitalism and individualism, and that has been a detriment. And like you said, I personally, living abroad, am reclaiming a lot of that community because I see it in the cultures that I'm living in. Like here in Spain, like the way that the apartment building is set up, you can see they have kind of like a communal grounds here.
Mhm.
And oftentimes in the evening, you'll see neighbors down there letting their kids play, but they're talking to each other. Even in the parks, they're gonna meet out. People will have it's super common here in Spain where people will parents will be having a beer while their kids are playing. And there's just a sense of, let's get together, let's talk, let's have a small bite to eat. And that's been everywhere. In Italy, same thing. On Sundays, we embraced that where everybody in Italy is really common to do like the Sunday lunch. So everybody does that. And same thing in Turkey is, but in Turkey it's more like the picnic culture or meeting for chai. And so
Mm.
those are the parts of me that have been healed from living abroad and allowed me to have community in a new way and to see how it's really supposed to be. You need each other. We were not meant to function as an individual. We were meant to function in a communal setting amongst each other. And I think that as we break away from capitalism, as we break away from that individualistic thinking, um, it's really healing. And it's a
It
beautiful thing.
is.
Yeah, it's a
It
beautiful
is. It's definitely really healing. Okay, let's go into the biggest question that everybody always have.
thing.
How do you make money abroad? We're gonna be wrapping up here.
Okay.
How do you make money abroad? How do you sustain financially? And also after that, you can give some tips on what other people could possibly do.
Okay. I always say my situation is a little bit different because when I left the States, one, I had real estate. So like I said, I was real estate investing and I had been investing for years since I was in my 20s. So I had a nice little cushion and I had my business. What I did is, um, I still had my business when I left and it was still making money. And then when I decided to close it, my sister and we decided to transition and sell beauty products online. So that's, like I said, I'm the kind of person, I'm very adaptable and I'm like transitioning easy. Like when I see the writing is on the wall, I'm already making moves. I ain't waiting for the crap to hit the fan. So
Okay, come on.
listen,
Love it.
I started drop shipping. So during COVID, I was drop shipping medical supplies and face masks from China to the States. I think I made like $3,000-4,000 just doing that in one
Uh-huh.
month. So I was doing that and then still renting my home in Orlando. So that was one of the ways that I was able to maintain myself and have income. And then, I also have my business projects that I do. So I have a cultural clothing line that I created called Love Soul Legacy. And it is the first of its kind cultural heritage clothing and fabric line inspired by the Underground Railroad quilt codes. So we sell fabric by the yard and we sell ready to wear clothing online. So that's one way that I make my money. And then also I do move abroad coaching. I do I also do the property scouting for people. And so I do like a lot of different things that based on my experience to make money because I truly believe like there are like a million and one ways to make money. So that's how I make money currently. And then obviously, like I said, I rent my property out now in Istanbul. So that's how I'm making money abroad.
Okay, I love that. So what tips would you give to someone who would ask you, how can I start making money abroad or how do I make money abroad when
Right.
I decide to transition?
This is a really great question. I do get asked this question often. The one thing that I'm going to say is 9 times out of 10, you're not moving to somebody's country to find a job. Like you're not moving to Thailand to find a random job in Thailand and work for a Thai salary. Especially if you're American, you're not going to want to do that. Um, and so the first thing that I'm gonna say to set the stage is like, one, you cannot afford to be undereducated and speak one language. That's one. So if you're thinking about making that transition to moving abroad, I'm gonna say get as much education as you can because as many problems that exist in the US. Um, there are ways to still get free education, there are still ways to even go outside of the US and get free education and get paid for it too. There are some countries that will pay you a stipend to go to school, and then you can segue from there into a work visa and find work there. But get as much education as you can, especially our people. That's one. But two, Consider the various fields, that you can get into that are easy. One of the easiest ways to make money abroad is teaching English abroad or being a teacher. So you can easily get your TEFL certification. There are different levels. I think you need like a TEFL level 5.
Mhm,
That's the most accepted one. But you can use that. You get your TEFL certification. It doesn't cost that much. And that can allow you to teach English abroad as a second language. And you can use that as a segue to teach English online, and then also possibly get hired to teach English in schools. There are a lot of schools on the planet that will not only pay you a salary, but they'll
mhm.
also pay for your accommodations to teach English abroad. So that's like the easiest way to do that. Um, Outside of, teaching English abroad, I would say that a lot of the other specialties, I would look at the medical field as well, because, if you have, high levels of education, like you're a registered nurse or you are in the medical field, then you can look at some career opportunities that are available abroad, um, in the medical field. Like, I know that in the UAE, they have a Cleveland Clinic, and they're oftentimes hiring nurses. You can maybe even try to, um, even start your own practice in certain countries. I know here in Spain, I don't know how difficult it is to, like, get all of that set up legally, but I
Mhm.
know that there are Americans and other foreigners that have set up medical practices in Spain and do quite well, especially in areas like Andalusia, Malaga province, like Marbella, et cetera, where there are high populations of English speaking people. And then, of course, there are always ways that you can leverage your natural talents, um, to make money abroad and start, start businesses, entrepreneurship. That's probably one of the easiest ways that you can make money. Uh, Opening a restaurant or a food truck. I would love to see some more of y'all come out here and start some soul food trucks and restaurants, because I sorely miss soul food. I mean, I do cook it from time to time myself when I have the ingredients, but that's something um that can be done. Um and so I think those are off the top of my head, those are some
Yeah.
ideas that I have. I actually did a video on my TikTok, um, about the various business ideas, but
Mhm.
definitely entrepreneurship is one of
Definitely.
the easiest ways to do it. Because, like I said, you're not gonna be coming to some of these countries and just getting some random job. They don't exist, and I think that, when it comes to just getting random jobs, that's one of the good things about the States, is that you can kind of just, even if you're not that educated, you can go someplace like, Walmart and get a job. But that, especially if you don't speak the local language, you're not moving someplace to get some little job like that. You're just not. And so
Exactly.
that's why I encourage everybody, like, get whatever level of education you can to make yourself globally competitive, because one thing that people don't realize abroad is that people abroad truly value education. They truly value education. Having a high level education is an indicator of your social status. And so
Mhm.
while some areas are not racist, or maybe the racism that's there is not hyper focused on being Black per se or Afro descendant per se, they're definitely classist. And so if you have a high level of education, you can kind of elevate yourself up in society simply by being highly educated. And so that's one thing that I encourage everyone who's listening, regardless of your ethnicity or your nationality, but in particular, if you are Afro American, you need to be highly educated, especially in this climate. And if you want to have global flexibility, get the highest education that you can. And I actually recommend this. I just had this conversation with a relative of mine. Have a college degree and have a trade. It ain't even like I keep saying, it ain't time to play around. Have both just in case. You can never have too much education.
Uh-huh.
You can never. And learn a couple foreign languages. You can never know enough languages. You can never be overeducated, but you can be undereducated. And if you start trying to move out in the world, you might find that to be to your detriment. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say.
I love that. That was good.
Yeah,
That was real good.
yeah.
Okay, so if someone came to you and asked you, what are two pros and two cons that you had for living abroad? What would it be?
Oh dang. Two pros would be one, the safety that I feel slash freedom and peace and that feeling. And then I want to say like the
Mhm.
opportunities. I feel like there's so
Yes,
many global opportunities out here that I'm just like, wow, it's really amazing to
it
see
is.
what is really available when you kind of get out of the box and start exploring. In terms of cons, I would have to say it is very exhausting. Like the immigration process is exhausting. It is mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually exhausting. And a lot of people do not talk about that enough. It
They
is.
don't.
And I think the other thing that's a kind of like a negative is kind of feeling that you get after you've been gone so long that you don't feel like you belong anywhere. It's a really weird feeling. Like when I go back to the States, I feel a lot of culture shock, reverse culture shock, because I'm not used to it anymore. There's so many things that I'm just not used to anymore. I remember when I went to a restaurant the last time I went to the States, I was like, "Do I give the do I wait for the waitress to come here so I can pay, or do I give them the credit card?" I forgot because I just simply been gone that long. Like little cultural nuances like that. Um, and just little things that I have to be hyper aware of. Um, but that weird feeling of feeling like you don't belong anywhere, it just is so unsettling. And so I would have to say that's kinda like a con, because it just
Mhm.
feels
It
weird,
is.
feels uncomfortable. Um,
That's a good one.
yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually have that feeling all the time. I have that feeling now. And before I go to my next country, I have to stop in America and stay for a couple months and then head back out. And it's so crazy because knowing that I gotta go back, it's like I've been getting all this random anxiety that I did not expect. And then when I was talking to my dad, and I was like, you guys have a party for me. And he was like, a party?
Right,
And I was like, I'm like, a party, yeah. Like I'll come back.
right.
And he was like, and these words sparked my soul. It was so like literally, it felt like a culture shock. Like literally, that's how I felt. He was like, well, you're not really coming back to nothing. You just coming back to the basic. We all doing the basic, regular living that we were doing before you left. And I was just like,
But I'm
I don't
coming
even
back.
know. I don't even know how to take that. But it immediately reminded me that that is not a place for me
Yeah, yeah,
and that I have to go handle my business, get my affairs in order, and leave immediately
yeah.
because I have to prepare for like what you're saying as far as culture shocks. I have to prepare, and I'm a very sensitive person.
Right.
So I'm like trying to get myself ready because it's like a reminder that that is not a place for me.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying? And like right now, I feel like how what you just said, I feel like I don't belong anywhere right now
yeah,
because I'm still trying to figure out. And it's a very unsettling feeling, but
yeah.
at the same time, it's like I feel liberated too. I don't know. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
explain it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
it's
exactly
so
how it is.
weird.
You feel liberated, but at the same time, you feel so free that you feel like you don't really belong anywhere because you're crossing all these cultures. I think for me, like just this year, I came to that conclusion in my heart that Turkey is home for me. So that
Mhm.
does help calm the feeling somewhat. But then
Okay.
I know that I'm still always traveling. I'm always crossing borders regardless. And also, since I don't have citizenship in Turkey, at least not yet, um, I'm still I'm still just out here. You know what I'm saying? So it is like a really weird feeling that I know a lot of people who live our lifestyle, they say the same thing. So if you
Mhm.
haven't lived our lifestyle, it's gonna be hard for you to relate. But once you do,
Right.
it's just this really weird feeling of like, okay, I don't really belong anywhere anymore.
It is. You explained it so good. That's why I had to chime in. Like, oh my God, that is literally where I am. I've been journaling and writing, allowing myself to feel it, but I feel like these are the things that are not talked about. That's why I do what I do. I'm so passionate about talking about the dark side of living abroad because there is a dark side. It's light and dark with anything duality. And I think that people should know because they're always walking into this and they think that this is about a perfect place. Baby, there is no perfect
There's
place
no
in
perfect
this
place
world.
at all.
There is no perfect place.
At all.
Okay, so ending with this, if someone was to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving abroad," what advice would you give that person to, start their journey? Like they're just new to this. They don't know anything about it. They're interested. The times that we live in right now, they're looking at everything and they're like, "Hey, Candice, I want to move abroad. What advice could you give me and would you give me?"
I would say, first and foremost, really ask yourself what it is that you feel like you want and need to feel happy. Like, ask yourself, what climate do you need to live in? Where can you actually afford to live based on your current income and money situation? You need to ask yourself, what uh, cultures do you feel like you could live in? Because some cultures are starkly different from your culture, and that might be too much of a culture shock. And then I would also recommend, if particularly if you are of Afro descendant, ask yourself, do you feel like you need to be around other melanated people or not? Or are you comfortable being around non-melanated or less melanated people? Because some people might need that, and I understand that. Europe ain't for everybody, and I get that. Um, and then I say get your astrocartography reading done because honestly, that will give you a good gauge, especially if that's part of your belief system, because I know that's not part of everybody's belief system.
Right.
If you're
True.
open to that and it's a part of your belief system, then I would say get your astrocartography reading done because it's going to give you a really good gauge of the places on the planet that are going to be most aligned for you to have positive and supportive experiences and the least amount of resistance. And then I think thirdly would be have a go see. Once you locate some places that you think are interesting, then I would say visit those places if you have an opportunity and so you can get a good feel and then also just see what visa options are going to be available to you for both the short and the long term.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's very good. I feel like you gave so much insightful information because it's been what? How long since you've been around? 7,
Almost 8 years.
8, almost 8 years.
Yeah.
So for everybody that's watching, this is 8 years of experience, honey. All right. This isn't the beginner. I feel like that's almost a decade.
Yeah.
So to get advice and information from you for everyone that's watching, this is very impactful. And I feel like you gave so much good insight, so much good information that people can actually use and just, sharing with people what this journey really consists of. And this is what everyone needs to see in real time for everybody that's watching. These are the type of people you need to be following on social media. I know right now moving abroad is trending. So everybody and their mama is like, hey, do this, do this, do this. But when you got almost a decade in, baby, you are seasoned.
Yes.
Okay.
I-
So,
I'm new to this. I'm true to this.
okay, period.
Period.
So where can everyone follow you? What's your medias?
So you can find me on TikTok under American Mom Global Citizen. You can also find me on Instagram, Fearless Freedom Lifestyle. And, like I said, I talk about all things living abroad, buying property abroad, and a whole bunch of random stuff as well.
Okay, we're gonna have to have you back again so we can go a little deeper. It's so much that we can unpack.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's so much. That's why I said we got to do like a live stream and do some other, some other
Yeah,
collabs
absolutely. I would love
together because you seasoned. And I like the insight that you give. I think it's very out the box and things that people don't think about. People talk a lot about the same things.
yeah, yeah.
So I love like the tips and the insight that you were sharing. So any last inspiring words that you want to share with the people?
I would say just know that the world is a big, beautiful place. It can be scary, but it's also a beautiful planet that we live on.
Yes.
And I think once you embrace being a global citizen, you will kind of understand that everything that's really amazing and magical in life is going to be on the other side of your comfort zone and your fears. So just do it.
Yes, just do it. I love it. Just do it like Nike.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to you, Candice, for being a guest.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We had such a good time. This was very insightful and informative. Make sure you guys leave your comments and your takeaways, any questions that you have for Candice, all of her information for her platforms, her website, all of that information will be in the description below. And make sure you guys tune in next Thursday for our new episode and make sure you subscribe, like, follow, share, and follow Candace on social media. Okay. All righty, guys. We
Thank
will see you
you.
guys next Thursday. Thank you for watching. Peace.
Peace. Bye.